Awesome, Tim. So first and foremost, introduce yourself to the audience watching. So a little bit about what you're doing right now, what you're responsible for in terms of Health Optimisation Summit, etc., and a little bit about yourself personally.
I'm Tim. I'm the UK's leading biohacker and also the founder of the Health Optimisation Summit. I'm going to be sharing some of the cool things that I've learned over the last 10 years with you today.
Awesome. So first and foremost, Tim, how did you come into contact with the world of biohacking and health optimization?
So I came into contact with the biohacking movement about 5 or 6 years ago after optimizing my health, figuring out loads of cool things that I'd found on the internet, but there wasn't a strong resource where you could learn everything step by step. So I spent 10 years really looking around trying to find all the cool things.
So Tim, you referred to optimizing your health about 5-6 years ago. We're coming to that process 5-6 years ago. So talk me through the pain point you experienced prior to, which led you to want to optimize your health, because most individuals day to day go about their life normally, not really think about their health until they become ill, and then would obviously then do further research in terms of how to then overcome that obstacle, that challenge. So talk me through the illness you experienced.
Yep. I started forming kidney stones and got urinary tract infections and brain fog and bloating and basically chronic fatigue and couldn't figure out any of these things, and the doctors told me there was nothing wrong. So I set about to figure out what the hell was going on and find the root cause of these things.
Yeah, okay, and what age were you when you started to experience that illness?
About 30.
Okay, and at the time you were running multiple businesses, correct?
Yeah, I was running 3 or 4 companies at the time.
Fairly high stress situations, obviously taxing in terms of work and obviously amount of effort applied to that as well.
Yeah, I was waking up at 7 o'clock, working all the way through till 11 o'clock at night, sticking my head on the pillow, falling asleep, waking up and getting back on it again. And that's pretty much 7 days a week.
And what about like other lifestyle components in terms of, you know, food, exercise, sleep?
Yeah, I didn't care about exercising. I didn't care about the food or the energy I put in my body. Again, there was just no awareness around the things that actually worked. And the right energy going in means the right energy coming out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, most people day to day would be doing similar things to yourself. For example, waking up, going straight to work, living a fairly high stress lifestyle, or wanting to push themselves in terms of their career, then going back after the end of the work day, then eating fairly crap food, or then going back into their normal life in terms of things which aren't really optimizing their health as such, and experiencing similar symptoms to yourself. So talk me through the negative implications that had on your life.
I got to the point that I couldn't even leave the house to run the companies. And everything started falling around me, basically. It got that bad. And I was in and out of the doctors nearly every single day 1 week. And it got to the point of like, what's wrong with me? And, you know, he just shrugged his shoulders and said, Tim, we can't find anything wrong with you. Okay. It was just, that's when I knew I had to set about finding out, you know, where to go. Yeah. That's really what this whole course is about, essentially, is laying out the things that I've learned over the last 10 years, but instead of scrambling around to find the right things to do in the wrong order,
piecing it together,
yeah, it's step by step saying, here's what I learned, here's the order that you should do them in, to get the best gains as quickly as possible. Okay, so you started to experience this illness at a very high level, and you obviously started to seek medical help. So talk me through that process of going back and forth between medical professionals, not necessarily finding any answers, and how that back and forth process kind of went along, or rather was strung along. How long did that take? So it took a good 3 years. It really took a good 3 years to figure out who to listen to. And actually, the label that I like right now is be the CEO of your health. Yeah. You know, the own CEO of your health, because no one else is going to take full responsibility for it. Yeah. And a lot of doctors get kind of 5 or 6 minutes appointment, and you're in and out, you know, and they just prescribe something opposed to really digging down. So when I looked into holistic doctors or holistic medicine, functional medicine, and all these different things, but they're very expensive, and at the time there wasn't that many around. So I was just really researching left, right and center, and trying to get all different types of tests myself to figure out what was going on. And the nearest I could find was a functional nutritionist. Who said that I should check for candida and heavy metals and all these usual things. Yeah. Okay, so you went to the conventional medical field. They weren't really giving you many answers which were progressive, or rather something which would prevent this illness from being a difficulty for you. What was your next action item? What was your next step? What did you do in terms of further research? What was the first
rather thing that looked at you like a headlight and a beam of light to go forward with.
I guess the turning point was when the doctor shrugged his shoulders at me and said, I don't know how to help you. I went home and started researching, and what I did was I actually got a pack of post-it notes, which I would do in the company when I was building strategies.
Yeah.
I'd actually stick every symptom or issue that I had down and stuck it on the wall.
Okay.
And then put it into a hierarchy, building it up to a top point that was causing everything as a cause and effect chart, basically.
Yeah.
And then I started researching each one of those things, how to tackle the symptoms and the root cause, and understanding how that would build to the bigger picture of bringing back health and immunity. Okay. So I really did do it in a diagnostic approach before even thinking about biohacking as a term.
Yeah.
And I did that and worked on the symptoms and the root causes for quite a while. And then someone told me about Bulletproof Coffee, which was putting butter and MCT oil and blending your coffee as using milk, which I first thought sounded strange, but when you actually think about it, it makes sense. Then I realized there's something called a biohacker, and I went, holy crap, I'm a biohacker. And I've been doing it for 5 years without even knowing that there's a massive community out there already.
Yeah, and that community were actually giving answers which would help you.
Yes.
Which is really interesting.
They didn't have bias. They're all in the solution mindset. A lot of them were even more data driven than me.
Okay.
And it was really awesome to see that there was a lot of crazy people like me out there that were doing a diagnostic approach to their health.
Yeah, and we're experiencing some of the symptoms you, I'm assuming, as well prior to this process.
It's a very normal story.
Yeah,
really
very normal story.
I got sick, the doctor couldn't help me, gave me more antibiotics, I got bloating, I couldn't digest my food, I had brain fog, I didn't have any energy, blah, 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 blah. And then I found out about taking probiotics, which helped X, Y, and Z, and and all these things. And so it's a very normal story. In fact, when I have brands reach out to me to exhibit at the summit, usually the founder says, "Oh, Tim, I have a very similar journey to you." And it's happened probably 50 or 60 times at least. Yeah. So it's a very normal issue. And I think why we find ourselves here today is if the traditional medical system was working and fixing people's issues, there wouldn't be a gap to fill somewhere else. And I think what the medical system is great with is emergency care. Definitely, like it saved my ass several times, not going to deny, but for chronic health issues, there's a big area of improvement. And I think where biohacking comes in, because it's so diagnostic, opposed to here's a tablet that you have to take every night. Yeah, rather than a short-term remedy, something where you assess every variable which contributes to it and then gives you an actual answer long-term, rather than having to refer to antibiotics, drugs, things just obviously lead to long-term health ailments or rather progressions of that, for example. An example, just to take it back a second, is if I'd gone to the doctors when I started getting infections and had bloating, instead of him saying, have some more antibiotics, he'd said, well, actually, what's your diet look like? Are you taking any probiotics, or are you eating any fermented foods? Are you eating lots of processed crap? Are you having high sugars? That probably would have nipped it in the bud and would have saved me years of health issues, opposed to, here's another drug. And so I think that's where it's failing, but that's why biohacking is growing so quickly, because it's really tackling the issues at the root cause. That's why we're here today. Yeah, exactly. And I think functional medicine fits into that, because functional medicine doctors still can't recommend things that are too far out there because they lose their licenses, whereas biohackers are testing on themselves, using these things and finding the results, which then functional doctors eventually then incorporate in. It's becoming more and more mainstream, just like grounding is these days. Yeah, so you came into contact with the biohacking world through Bulletproof Coffee, of course. Then talk me through that process. So you started to network with individuals that were like-minded to you, or rather solution-focused, and as a result would help you through the illness as such you were experiencing. Talk me through that process step by step. What did that process entail? Well, before Bulletproof Coffee, I was just searching forums and looking at, anecdotal evidence and ideas to try out there. And then when I heard about Bulletproof Coffee, the first day I had it, actually, I ordered the bits in and tried it, and I just couldn't believe how my brain was on fire, and not jittery or anything bad. I had it about 9 a.m. And about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I realized that I'd had my head down in work, the best I'd had, for several years. And my girlfriend at the time had exactly the same experience. So I knew there was something there. And I started unraveling it
and figuring out why it was so good. Obviously that came into the ketogenic diet, which I did solidly for a year, which was right at the beginning of the keto diet trend, which was very, very good, but that really helped me understand that diet and the energy you put in really did have a massive impact, more than we realized.
Yeah, massive. So by this point, had you overcome your illnesses, or was it a case of you still trying to piece together the piece of the puzzle?
It was helping.
It was helping?
Yeah, these things that I'd done really did help build my performance and energy, so I had my mental clarity back, and my assumption was always that if I work on my mental clarity, I have the brain power to figure out how to fix the immune system and the energy, and then chronic health issues would reverse. And that's really where, so I realized that how diet and nutrition impacted mitochondrial health, and mitochondria are basically our batteries that help fuel our whole bodies, and the better that your mitochondria work, the better that everything else works. That includes your immune system.
What I find really interesting about your process in terms of going from having a chronic illness to then having optimized health is that you did it all in one extended movement rather than it being through different phases. And what I mean by that is overcoming the chronic health and then looking how you can optimize your performance to the final degree or the final T. You did all of it all at once, which I find really interesting as a process rather than it being separated, which most individuals would go through. But I suppose, again, the space was fairly new. It was something which is developing rather than it being something which you can refer to in terms of education now, if that makes sense. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that come to me now, if I do consultations or ask me questions on social media, they're like, well, where do I start? And I was like, well, the first thing is what's wrong? Or why are you doing this? And it starts with the why. For instance, some people are operating at 99% already, and they want that extra 1%, the high performers. And I think that's where you come in.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of people are at 70% and they don't even realize it. And it's like, well, is it because you've got brain fog? Is it because you've got energy issues? Blah, 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 blah. And I think for me, it was having the worst thing to fix, and fixing that means that everything else below it works okay. And I think that's where the cause and effect chart came in for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So why did you turn biohacking into your career? So obviously you're running multiple businesses, you had an agency at one point which was obviously very successful, and then you came across this chronic illness and obviously you had to resolve that. Why did you then turn biohacking into your career and something which was your life's passion?
I'm an all-in or nothing type.
Okay.
I'm definitely a type A, so I keep on getting told. And my mindset is that there's a way around everything, it's just a matter of finding it. So I knew that I needed my health, and I needed my energy. I loved my career previously in digital marketing, which I'd done for a very long time, but the more and more I wanted better health, the more and more I focused on that, and that kind of like disappeared into the background for me. My motivation shifted, and I really loved all of the cool things in biohacking, and I wanted to incorporate it into my life. So if it becomes your career, you're immersed in it.
Yeah.
You know, you get to try everything, you get to research everything, you're actually paid to do what you absolutely love doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is exactly what I'm doing.
Which for you was a natural progression rather than it being something where you made a decision and then you decided to move forward. It was a case of, this is my passion, I'm going to move forward with it naturally.
Well, the point came to it is like with my agency, it was like, well, I wanted to sell it at one point, and I said, well, what do I want? I want to travel the world, and be in multiple countries around the world every year, and follow the sun. When I realized the importance of the sun. I didn't want to spend all my savings or the money I'd got from the sale of my company doing so, and I want health and a career. So really building a career in biohacking with a summit in multiple countries around the world, which means I get paid to do the summits in different countries, kind of like tackles all of that.
So what was the start of your professional career in biohacking? Obviously you referenced a summit there, but where did it start for you? I believe it was a conference.
But so I opened a hyperbaric oxygen clinic in London after running the Biohacker London meetup group, which is just a non-profit bit of fun really for the community in London. And then I opened the hyperbaric clinic, which got filled up very, very quickly, became a really successful business, which kind of got me on the map. I got to meet people like Dom D'Agostino, who's the main guy behind the Ketogenic Diet and all the research for it. And various other, I guess, bigger name colleagues nowadays.
High-level experts,
and I got to meet those guys, which I wouldn't normally have been able to do if I hadn't had the clinic.
Yeah.
And then after having the clinic for 2 or 3 years, I went to more and more conferences and got to meet a lot of these guys, told them about the clinic and the importance of hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and they took note.
Okay.
And it's kind of just spiraled from there, really.
Okay, and that then led into the summit organically?
Yes, exactly. The meetup grew like from 500 people to over 3,000 people. Once I relabeled it as Health Optimisation and Biohacker, everyone understand what biohacking meant, opposed to not, and it's to be able to target, you know, everyone within health and fitness, medical wellness, nutrition, biohacking, paleo, keto, all of these things fit under the Health Optimisation label. People said you should be doing a summit. So I did my diligence on all of the summits out there in the health space and built one.
Okay, cool. So how long have you been running a summit for now?
Since the beginning of 2019 is when I started planning. And then 2019 September was the first one, which we had 1,164 people, 40 speakers, 50 exhibitors. And then 2020 was supposed to happen. Obviously, due to COVID, we had to delay it, which is happening in September 2021.
Okay, cool. And what is the objective with the summit and obviously the biohacking content which you're presenting worldwide through both the summit forum and obviously in terms of other social platforms as an extension of the summit? What's the objective?
The objective is really to pull together the best from all of those spaces and present information that is at the forefront to people that might not have access to it. So for instance, it's someone like myself or my mum or, you know, your auntie or uncle or whatever.
My dad when he was ill.
Exactly. It's like, well, actually, I've got to figure this health thing out. Don't know where to start. I don't know where to listen. You know, you can go to a conference and you can learn about mitochondrial health if you want more detail, or you can learn about sexual health optimization. You know, for instance, if I go into that for a second, people that are having sexual health issues, for instance, when they go into listen to a talk about sexual health optimization, they actually realize it's something to do with their overall health and their diet or their breathing or one of these things. So actually they then know the areas to explore. So it's really focused around the issues that someone would have around their health and all the topics around it. And I cover all of that. So I map it out categorically so that I have a speaker for each area. So someone can come in and learn a massive amount.
So it's basically an extension of your own journey.
Yes.
And as a result, helping more people through that process.
It's a curation of every area that I could think of, mapping out every symptom possible and getting the world's best speakers in each one of those areas.
Very high level experts.
Then, like the top names. Obviously, Dave Asprey, Jim Quick in learning. He's just confirmed as a speaker, which is amazing.
Amazing.
And Vishen from Mind Valley, and all these the game changers basically. And then I get to learn from them, and then I get to share what I've learned from them with my audience.
Yeah, awesome. Before we dive into that aspect of how you're going to be sharing this information with your audience, and obviously turning it into a digital course as well, let's talk about the fact that by this point, your health is optimized to a very high level. But what's a difficulty you're facing right now, or rather something you're focusing on in terms of the final piece of the puzzle, or another piece which is constantly evolving of your health?
Something I'm working with at the moment, I mean, there's several things actually. I mean, I don't ever want to think that I've hit 100%. Just like anyone that's successful, you ask, you know, Elon Musk, for instance, he's still not as successful as he wants to be. And it's that constant need for more that drives him to achieve more than everyone else. You know, as soon as you go, I'm done, you know, that's it. You completely change who you are. So I don't think that that's an option. For me, I'm always looking to have a better immune system, definitely. And I monitor my bloods very carefully around white blood cell, CRP, and for instance, like PSA for prostate, just to make sure that I don't have what my granddad had, and various other markers like that as well. So I'm always currently optimizing in some way. For me, a big part of the journey has been dental optimization, because I had a whole mouthful of 7 metal fillings, which obviously caused a whole load of metabolic issues.
Havoc.
It did actually. So some of the areas around there, like for instance, I've got 3 ceramic implants to get still done, which is something I'm looking forward to, and always a little bit of better mental clarity. I think I run at 95% these days, but once upon a time it was at 70. So I'm looking for that last one.
The reason why I asked that question is because biohacking as a field, from an outside perspective, is something where it's almost unapproachable in a respect where everyone seems very high level. They feel like they've got everything optimized to a very high degree.
And as a result of that, there's a lack of discussion of basic principles or basic difficulties that people are facing in terms of illnesses or things they want to optimize and improve, which is what we're going to be running through in terms of digital course as well, which leads into my next topic as well. But it's just something where I feel like the biohacking space overall lacks in terms of being potentially too high level and very unapproachable, as I said.
That is where the name Health Optimization comes in.
Yeah.
Because biohacking, it's almost like, yeah, I'm 120% already. No, I want 130%.
Yeah, it seems super extreme. Like everyone's wearing like orange goggles and stuff like that. You're like, what on earth's happening here? They're in front of hyperactive chambers, red light therapy tools, and then in terms of mass market or people, for example, like my mum and my dad, for example, who are experiencing illnesses and chronic illnesses, but they would then not necessarily associate that as being the way forward because they think of it as too extreme. Which
So it's making all of the things accessible to fix the issues that you might have going on in your life.
Yeah.
And I think the label of health optimization makes people know it's not about biohacking, which the goal is to be a biohacker.
Yeah.
Health optimization, the goal is to optimize your health and performance. So I think it makes it much more accessible.
Yeah, definitely.
So for instance, people that do have chronic health issues wouldn't necessarily jump straight into biohacking. I jumped into biohacking because I knew it was good for my health optimization. So therefore the goal-oriented name really does bring people in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why we had, as many people in year 1 in London that the Bulletproof conference in LA had in year 6.
Yeah. And also at the time, in terms of your own process, your own journey, biohacking was the only thing to go to in terms of reference or piece of information to move forward with, or rather bank of resources as well. Whereas now, in terms of what we're doing with health optimization, for example, that's obviously the process you're going to go through in terms of step-by-step. Chronic illness, health optimization, then biohacking is the next variable. So obviously at this moment in time, we're working on the digital course in terms of the health optimization program. Talk me through the reasons to why I wanted to launch this program, start this program, and obviously share the information with the world that you've culminated over a few years.
I wanted to do this course because there's so much information out there. There's a whole internet out there, is what I like to say. I mean, it's never-ending content. You can have 1 million emails a day with 50,000 newsletters, and not knowing where to start, it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that people say to me often, it's overwhelming, where do I start? I wanted to put together in a chronological, simple order of the basics that you have to nail for basic health and for chronic illness in one format, one place you can go to and use it as a reference guide. You can watch it without being overwhelmed, starting with your daily routine and then what to tweak. And it's really simple and basic for me, but I know that people that have looked at it for me have said actually there's a lot of good information in there that's laid out and very easy to add layer by layer, day by day.
Absolutely.
So really the goal was to make all of this cool stuff and the basic stuff accessible, and instead of saying, oh, do I try hyperbaric oxygen therapy, do I try red light therapy, do I wear blue blocking glasses, do I have to do Wim Hof breath work on a lump of ice, it's basically saying start with this and try it, and then do this and try that, and here's the reasons why. And it's a 10-day course covering 8 different topics, with a few bonus videos such as how to make bulletproof coffee, for instance, as a staple. It's just to make it easy and accessible so that people don't have to fight to swim and digest all the unlimited amount of content on the internet.
And obviously your current audience knows exactly why they should be going through that process and that course, because obviously it's your high level expertise put into one place, one platform, and as a result in a very linear process. But talk me through individuals who aren't necessarily aware of you in terms of the information you share, or rather the reason why they should be going through the course. Why should they go to that piece of content? What kind of individuals should be going to that piece of content? What kind of things they're experiencing right now that should lead them to go through that piece of content and that course?
I think that everyone can do this course because the smartest people I meet are generally the ones that want to prevent issues from happening. And like, for instance, with your bank account, if you get to 0, it's too late. If you get into the negative, it's definitely too late. Well, I got to the negative with my health and realized, oh crap, I have to do everything now to get into the positive. And it's harder to make money or get health when you're already in the negative. Whereas when you have something, it's much easier to build upon. Because also it saves time. So I think preventative is the way forward. And actually a lot of the consultancy firms out there are actually recommending to their clients preventative. So for instance, preventative in the workplace, which means that people aren't off sick.
Yeah.
Opposed to when they get sick, how to clean up the mess. And it's the same with your car. If you're only to get your car fixed when it broke down, you know, it would be very inconvenient all the time.
Yeah.
But we send our car in for a service once a year to make sure it doesn't break down, but we don't do that with our car. With our health, sorry. So with our health, it's like, well, do we wait until the washer fluids run out or it's got no oil? It's too late.
Yeah.
And it's the same with our bodies. What are the fundamental building blocks that we need to make sure that our car continues to run as it should? Well, that is what this course spreads out for.
Yeah, awesome. And the interesting point on that also is the fact that people do put preventative measures in, for example, in terms of their finances, their car, even for example, house and repairs in that respect, but fail to do so with their health. And as a result, are always actioning things in a responsive manner where, for example, as you said, it might be too late, or at that point it's something which is potentially irreversible. So obviously the intention with this course as such as well, from your perspective, is a case of educating individuals prior to that point in terms of preventative measures. As a result, they know exactly what to be doing as a process to keep their health highly optimized as a result of not experiencing anything negative as well, which is awesome.
I agree. I mean, people put super fuel in their car because they want it to run properly, and yet they don't care about what they put in their body.
Yeah, eat Maccadees.
It's like, it's bonkers, it's crazy. So yeah, the course really does aim at preventative, i.e. what you need to do to make sure that you can flourish and operate at a high level.
Yeah.
And also people that have health issues, get the building blocks in place so that they can flourish again. So it really does cover both areas, biohacking and health optimization together.
Awesome, lovely stuff. And in terms of individuals that are watching this video, in terms of further resources they could be accessing or information you're sharing, where would they look for you in terms of content you're producing online?
So on YouTube, Tim Biohacker, it's very easy to find, and also on Instagram under Tim Biohacker, which is where I'm most active.
And those are your two main platforms?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then in terms of accessing further information, obviously digital courses releasing soon as well. So in terms of the layout of that, that's 10 days long. Elaborate on that a little bit more so.
Yeah, so it's 10 days. It's the fundamentals, starting with circadian or daily optimization and sleep, running through hydration, nutrition, movement and exercise, supplementation, Bulletproof Coffee, and all of these things.
And that's the person beginning this process?
Yes, that's the beginner's guide with a daily homework schedule and takeaways from each day and a couple of exercises as well.
Awesome, lovely stuff. That's great for you. Leave it there.